तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गणन्ति पुरिराजना. Your words are like nectar, bringing life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome, everyone, to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We are on the chapter Advice to Pundit Shashadhar, and just towards the end of the chapter, page 497, and the date is Thursday, July 3rd, 1884. And Sri Ramakrishna had gone to Balaram Bose's house, and the Pundit Shashadhar had come there to see him. So we just finished the scene where some kirtan was going on. This is the day of the return of the return chariot festival, Ratha Jatra, and Sri Ramakrishna was dancing with the devotees. Master to Shashadhar. This is called Bhajanananda, the bliss of devotees and the worship of God. Worldly people keep themselves engrossed in the joy of sensuous objects, of lust and gold. Through worship, devotees receive the grace of God and then his vision. Then they enjoy brahmananda, the bliss of Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna used to talk about three different types of joy or pleasure or happiness in the world. The first is vishayananda. Vishaya, this is enjoyment of worldly objects. And then bhajanananda, the certain joy that comes through love of God, through worship, through singing kirtan, any of our spiritual practices, the bhajanananda. But there's a bliss, brahmananda, of full God realization when the mind gets merged in Brahman. So these are the three different levels. The God realized soul coming back down can enjoy all of them. So this is how Sri Ramakrishna, he could enjoy going to the theater, he could enjoy seeing the balloon go up and all sorts of different things, because everything was spiritual for him at that point. We're trying to slowly give up enjoyment of worldly things because we haven't tasted the higher things yet. So it's kind of a scale that goes up and then it can come back down also. Shashadhar and the devotees listened to these words with rapt attention. Shashadhar humbly, "Sir, please tell us what kind of yearning gives one this blissful state of mind." Now, remember that this Shashadhar is a tremendous scholar, has knowledge of the scriptures, that many people attended his lectures and everything. He's not a small person. And generally, we hear about the Pandits being very proud people. But we can see humbly that, and this is why Thakur liked him so much, that he recognized that the spiritual greatness of Sri Ramakrishna and knew that there's more than just scriptural knowledge and that type of academic, scholarly learning. So he asked that beautiful question, "Sir, tell us what kind of yearning gives one this blissful state of mind." Master, one feels restless for God when one's soul longs for his vision. The Guru said to the disciple, "Come with me. I shall show you what kind of longing will enable you to see God." Sri Ramakrishna gives many examples. This is probably the one he gives most often, and it really captures that feeling. Saying this, he took the disciple to the pond and pressed his head under the water. After a few moments, he released the disciple and asked, "How did you feel?" The disciple answered, "Oh, I felt as if I were dying. I was longing for a breath of air." So this This is called vyakulata. Bengali it's say vyakulata. This vyakulata is something that is emphasized by Sri Ramakrishna more than any other spiritual teacher that we know about. Term is used in Narada Bhakti Sutra. So, but still, this he gives so much emphasis to this idea, this concept that uh, the catalyst for God realization is longing for God. Now, this vyakulata has different sides to it. It can manifest itself as this tremendous longing for God, and at the same time, uh, this tremendous pain at not having realized God. So both are there together, and it really has this meaning or this feeling of a type of anguish, and it has to be accompanied by intense renunciation. So if we look at this example, see, there are two sides to it. I felt as if I were dying. So that means that we have to feel that we're being smothered in the world, that this world is like a blazing firefight. This is Vairagya, that this world is somehow just crushing us, that we just don't care for it. We want to escape. People say, is this escapism? Yes, there's a good type of escapism. if we're drowning, we want to escape. If we're in a forest fire, we want to escape. So this is half of it. But there are many people who feel crushed by the world. It doesn't mean that they're spiritual. There are many people who feel, I just want to get out of this. That's too much responsibility, too much pain, and everything. Unless it's accompanied by this tremendous longing for God, then it's not really this vyakulata. So, uh, on the one hand, if the disciple felt as if he were dying, that he'll be drowned to death, but knows that there's an escape, longing for that breath of air. So both of these things are there together. This is why when Sri Ramakrishna talks about this vairagya, he understands and he explains that this is only half of the story, that this distaste for the world, that it simply doesn't please us anymore, and it weighs on us. It's a kind of a burden where you want to escape. That this is only half, and if we have that, uh, it won't be very helpful unless we have something that's attracting us. And if we don't feel that attraction, the world will overcome us, because no matter how much we feel that the world is a burden, we still feel some attraction to enjoyment in the world. So he always adds anuraga to vairagya. It's a very standard thing with Sri Ramakrishna. And he says the best way to withdraw ourselves from the world is to pull ourselves. So there has to be this tremendous longing for a breath of air. So both things are there.
It's only for bhaktas, not for jnanis.
Jnani will have also a type of vyakulata. And we see this in the life of Buddha, that life was unbearable for him with just as Vishayananda. Huh? He was living in the palace, and the night that he left, they had a huge celebration because a child was born. And we read that there was so much drinking and eating and singing and dancing that people were rolling on the ground. And for him, it did like they were demons, and it was like hell and like torture, and he had to get away. So this is half of that. The other half is tremendous longing for truth. So this is also vyakulata.
They mostly follow the Shanta Bhava.
This will be according to Shanta Bhava. Yes. All of the different attitudes that we have require this type of uh, longing for realization or longing for devotion, and also being free from attachment to the world. So in the case of Buddha, he didn't have to fight at all to become free from attachment to the world, because uh, not only did it lose did he lose his taste for it, but it seemed to be something horrible to him at that time. And there's such a longing. You remember he had the vision. The last vision was of a sannyasin, was of someone walking freely with tremendous joy and dispassion, not attracted to anything. And that vision remained with him. He had tremendous desire to attain to that state. So he also had, yeah, this. So the jnani can also have it, a different type. That's all. But there has to be this tremendous longing for truth, for realization, to cast off the ignorance, to feel that not knowing our true nature is a tremendous burden on us, that we have to know. That we can't go through life without understanding what everything is all about, why we just go and uh, uh, go around in circles with the same types of enjoyments and disappointments and everything. There has to be something else to it. And that tremendous longing for that is also a type of vyakulata. Shashidhar. Yes, yes, that's it. I understand it now. And for Sri Ramakrishna, this is the final stage. Once we reach that feeling that we feel that we can't live another minute without realization, then he says it'll come shortly after that. And he gives the example of the sunrise. That before we see the sun, we see the little red orange patch in the on the horizon. We see that first before we see the sun. That's vyakulata. When we see that, we know it's just a matter of time before we'll see the sun. That's God realization. Master, to love God is the essence of the whole thing. Now, uh, we have to remember that Sri Ramakrishna is balancing his remarks between the Shashadhar and also Balaram's father, who was there. One is a tremendous jnani, and the other is a tremendous bhakta. So he's doing things that will uh, be helpful for both of them, that will appeal to the both of them, that will round off the sharp corners of both of them. He is he's the most perfect doctor who knows the medicine for everything, the bhava. Yeah, so he's. We can say that this is something he knows that Balaram's father will be very happy to hear, and he knows it's something that Shashadhar uh, will be helped by. Not that Shashadhar is going to give up his tremendous learning and wisdom and understanding of the Vedantic principles, but to round things out a little bit, to bring a little devotion to him. So bhakti alone is the essence. Sada is the word. Bhakti shara. The sada, it means really, if we boil down something till we just get the juice of it, the real essential feature of it. So for Sri Ramakrishna, uh, bhakti was the one essential thing uh, for most people. Now, it doesn't mean that the jnani who realizes I am he, realizes I'm one with the Brahman, that'll be the anchor for them. That'll be everything. But even for them, Sri Ramakrishna says that in order to live in the world, they can establish a relationship. We had a big discussion recently, Swami Basavananji's Wednesday morning class, on keeping the knowledge of Advaita in your pocket, in the corner of your cloth, and everything. So, one idea is that we know that ultimately individual soul and supreme soul are one. But mind comes down a little bit, the sense of I is there. We can establish a relationship and have a devotional relationship with God. One way of understanding it. So, Master to Shashidhar, to love God is the essence of the whole thing. Bhakti alone is the essence. Narada said to Rama, may I always have pure love for your lotus feet, and may I not be deluded by your world bewitching Maya. Rama said to him, ask for some other boon. No, said Narada, I don't want anything else. May I have love for your lotus feet. This is my only prayer. So This is why we think in terms of the Jnana Misra Bhakti, with the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. It's not a type of bhakti based on dualism. This is a traditional type of bhakti, requires a difference between uh, the Supreme Self and the individual self. It requires that. Traditionally, devotional type of, or dualistic type of bhakti. This is uh, bhakti with the understanding that there's oneness underlying everything, but this stick of ego, to me, this is a very important illustration that Thakur gives. The stick of ego lying on the surface, we know that it can't separate one side of the water from the other. We know that. It's not, it doesn't go all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. It's just resting on the surface. We know that. At the same time, we can't get rid of this feeling of separateness. He says that. He says we may reason 1,000 times that this ego is unreal. The very next moment it comes back. So we utilize it. We utilize it. We say, yes, theoretically, I know, philosophically, I know, maybe even through some type of realization, I know that there's no substance to this ego sense, that it's based on false identification. I know all of that. And yet it keeps coming back. That feeling of I comes back. And I don't want it to be identified with this physical body and with my worldly desires and everything. Let me form a relationship with God. So this stick of ego gives a little bit of separation, one side of the water from the other side, one little wave and the whole ocean. So we have a devotional attitude towards that. So this is a type of bhakti based on oneness. Now, not everybody needs it. Some can just follow this path of Advaita Vedanta. But for most people, this is very helpful. And the second thing is that after God realization, then we live again with this ego sense. The ego sense is there every second of our lives, except when we're sleeping, except when we're engaged in something and we become a little self-forgetful, or when we have the God realization, we have samadhi. Otherwise, the sense of I is always there. We may say that the Jnani says, so while walking and talking and doing that, I know that I'm not the one doing it. But still, I know that I'm not the one doing it. Still, some sense of I is there. Sri Ramakrishna, did he have a sense of I? Of course. He was a child of the Divine Mother. It wasn't that I am the Guru, I am the Karita, I am the Baba, that he couldn't bear. But it was still a sense of I. This is that ripe ego, there's nothing wrong with it, it's helpful. He makes that point, that not only is this something that, oh, we say, okay, we can't get rid of it, we'll put up with it. No, we utilize it, we strengthen it, we get fully established. I am the servant of God, I'm a child of God. That's the anchor that we have. That's what we hold on to, that'll take us to the highest realization. The use of that for us, this ripe ego is an imagined ego. This ripe ego is a type of kalpana, we could say, a type of imagination that we're trying to superimpose that feeling on the mind, to convince the mind that I'm not just an ordinary person, I'm a child of God, a devotee of God. Arop kora, bless you. Arop kora. Thakur says over and over and over again that take this attitude and impress it upon your mind so it becomes natural. And this eats away at this other false identification that I'm such and such a person. I was born at a certain time in a certain place. I have a certain community, a certain religion, certain ethnicity, all of that. It'll wear away with that. It's because we're replacing it with this strictly spiritual attitude that I am servant of God, a child of God, friend of God, one of the relationships. Yeah. So that type of bhakti is essential, that Sri Ramakrishna say. The other type of bhakti can also lead to very high ecstatic types of moods, but Swamiji says it also leads to fanaticism. He says that the greatness of the path of devotion, ordinarily, a dualistic type, is that it has tremendous strength and power to it. The negative side is that it leads to fanaticism. That I experience God this way, everybody else has to also. I look upon God as Father. That means God is Father. You have to look upon God as Father. I look upon God as Mother. This is the ultimate truth. Everybody has to accept it. That Sri Krishna is the greatest avatar. Whatever it is, that this is it gives tremendous nishtha, tremendous devotion to our own spiritual path, but it leads to narrowness and fanaticism. So the type of devotion that Sri Ramakrishna teaches is really expansive and includes all of the other paths, the Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga and everything. Pundit Shashadhar was ready to leave. Sri Ramakrishna asked a devotee to bring a carriage for the Pandit. Shashadhar, don't trouble yourself, I shall walk. Master smiling, oh, how can that be? You are beyond the reach of even Brahma's meditation. So Sri Ramakrishna, he liked to, it's not flattering, but it's showing his appreciation. He says similar things when he left Vidyasagar. That now this is the real ocean. We're just little ponds and pools. The ocean of knowledge, Vidyasagar. Shashadhar, there is no particular need of my going just now. The only thing is that I shall have to perform my sandhya. Now, for Orthodox Brahmins, and really all Brahmins are supposed to. I don't know about other parts of India. They may have their own different types of disciplines, but in Bengal, at least, that those who are Orthodox Brahmins, they were very particular about doing this Sandhya Vandana, doing their certain prayers, morning time and evening time, maybe noon time, 3 times a day, and repeating Gayatri Mantra and other things like that. Sri Ramakrishna is a little bit ambivalent about these things. He says, yes, these things should be done. These are important things, but a stage will be reached where one can leave these behind. He says that the Sandhya will merge into Gayatri. That means you don't have to do any formal puja, formal worship. Just repeat Gayatri is enough. Gayatri will merge in Om. Those who reach a stage, they see the sun go down, they simply, oh, is enough. That they'll transcend all of these things. This is something that happens automatically. We were talking the other day about this idea of the child says, Mother, wake me up when I feel the call to nature. She says, I won't have to wake you up. It'll happen automatically. So these things fall off automatically. And we don't decide. And one day, mind is so absorbed that we don't know if it's day or night. How do we do Sandhya at that time? Sometimes, Thakur says, how do we know when it's time to give these things up? When you repeat the name of Rama once, or Om, or whatever, and tears fall from your eyes. Then you know that you've passed this Vaidhi Bhakti stage and you've reached this Anuraga stage. So, Master, he's not going to tell this Shashadhar, oh, give these things up. They're little worth it. Sometimes he does. Sometimes we have some instances where the devotees are trying to get out of something. They're supposed to be eating with non-Brahmins or something like that. Oh, I have my Sandhya to do. And sometimes they'll say, oh, yeah, oh, stop. Come, it's time to eat something. But this is a little bit different here. So he'll talk about himself. He says, Master, the Divine Mother has taken away my Sandhya and other devotions. That means that no formal worship is necessary or even possible for Sri Ramakrishna at this stage of his life. After he had his realization, we have many examples of when he tried to do Tarpana for his mother. She passed away. It was impossible to do it. The water slipped through his fingers. That was his understanding of the Divine Mother showing him that once one reaches that stage where one takes the sannyasa, that they don't need to do these things anymore.
But Thakur went to the Kali temple every evening, right?
Oh, he would go, yeah, but he could. There was no prescription that he had to follow. If he wanted to go, he would go. There's nothing about a God realized soul not enjoying the bliss of communion with God and worship and all of that. But it's not a duty anymore. It's not a kartavya. It's not anything that a vidhi that has to be followed. You can do it or not do it. That makes no difference whatsoever. But this is how we lived in the world. We lived in the world with bhakti and bhakta. We lived in the world with the company of devotees and with the enjoyment of love of God. So yeah, of course, he would go and do all of those things. But he didn't have to recite all of the mantras and do everything. Generally, what he liked to do most, wave the chamar. Gives away feeling the mother is really there. He's really cooling her off and everything. Yeah, that's the one thing he seems to like the most. So the Divine Mother has taken away my sandhya and other devotions. The purpose of the sandhya is to purify body and mind. I'm no longer in that state. Yeah, this repetition of Gayatri and the sandhya, this is something that is held in very high esteem in India. The Gayatri mantra is considered to be by most people the most sacred mantra, and there are always this question: those who come to monastic life, should they also continue with this Gayatri? Generally, those Brahmin boys are told yes, you can continue. Some even after sannyasa. After sannyasa, some are very formal orthodox sannyasins won't recite it anymore. They're not supposed to. It's a Vedic thing. But we're not so formal. So many will continue with this Gayatri as a devotional thing, but not that they have to do it or anything. But it's very beautiful. The meaning of this Gayatri mantra, praying for inspiration, praying that the mind can be opened up, the buddhi can be opened up, so that the heart center will open up, so we can have that realization of God. It's a beautiful prayer. When we take our brahmacharya vows, we get those who are non-Brahmins. Others have already received Gayatri Mantra, but we receive it. So for 4 years, I also this Gayatri Mantra type of meditation. Everything is wonderful, very nice. The master sang the following lines of a song. When will you learn to lie, O mind, in the abode of blessedness, with cleanliness and defilement on either side of you? Only when you have found the way to keep these wives contentedly under a single roof will you behold the matchless form of Mother Shyama. One of the themes of this worship of Divine Mother and Tantra, we can say, or Shakta, is not making a big distinction between pure and impure. Now, that doesn't mean we have to make a distinction between holy company and unholy company, but just with regard to this we can't touch, this is good, this is that type of thinking. Everything is just a manifestation of the three gunas. If the mind is a little higher, everything is a manifestation of Divine Mother. But to get rid of this idea of likes and dislikes, ragadvesha, and this idea that this is holy, this is unholy. So all the manifestation of God. So that's why that Punagyani, he told the Haladhari that when you make no distinction between this water of Ganga, considered the holiest water possible, and ditch water means sewer water. It means really like sewage. Yeah. And this water, make no distinction, then know that you've had the highest knowledge. Now, on one level, we have to make a distinction. We won't bathe in that one. Yeah. But on the other level, is all the mind saying one is pure and one is impure. It's just the mind. So this is one type of spiritual practice. This is that pishachavat, that one becomes like a ghoul. They don't make any distinction. A small child won't make any distinction. We kind of learn these things later, that this is a bad thing, this is a good thing, that type of feeling.
Yes, superstition.
It's not, I won't say superstition, because the water is actually filthy. You can actually get disease from it and everything else. Yeah. So some of the tantric practices are really, I mean, to take this very impure things, touch them to your tongue and everything, just to get rid of this idea of aversion. What is the tongue? Tongue is just three gunas. The other thing is just three gunas. What is that sensation? It's just it's a sensation. It's neither good nor bad. If we think of food, we eat a certain type of food. Why do we say this tastes good and this tastes bad? It's just a sensation, and then the mind interprets it. The food triggers different parts of the tongue, and they have different things. One will say sweet, one will say bitter, one will say sour, and everything. But uh, we can learn to like things that we didn't like. One the first time we taste it, it tastes horrible. Then later we find it is good. This Karela, huh? Many people, yeah,
Indian bitter.
yeah. This bitter gourd, huh? Many people the first time that they taste it, they say, "My God, how can anybody eat this?" And then if they stick with it after a while, it turns out to be such a nice thing. Yeah. So it's all the play of the mind. This is one type of spiritual practice or attitude. So it says, with cleanliness and defilement on either side of you. And just the simile or allegory is, we look upon both as somebody who has two wives, equally good. Both can buy, one could be one side, one on the other side. We make no distinction. Anyhow, this is just one type of spiritual attitude that we find in the tantric tradition. Pundit Shashadhar saluted the master and went away. Ram, I visited Shashadhar yesterday. You asked me to. So Sri Ramakrishna even wanted some of his devotees to see him. Not so much that he wanted them to benefit from Shashadhar, but he felt that Shashadhar will develop more devotion for him. And that's not an egotistic type of thing, but that it would be good for him by mixing with his devotees, something like that. Master, did I? I don't remember, but it is nice that you went. Ram, the editor of a newspaper was abusing you. This is the one habit of this Ram. He likes to stir up things. He likes to say, "Oh, this person said this about you," and everything. He likes to gossip a little bit. We see that many times here, even though he had so many wonderful qualities, and Thakur loved him very much. But he had that little bit of that habit that he liked to tell that this is the Indian Empire. We don't know who the editor was. Here it's not so bad. He wants to make a positive thing. Master, suppose he was. What does it matter? Ram, please listen. Then I began to talk to the editor about you. He wanted to hear more and wouldn't let me go. Now, two things here. One is that Ram is trying to show that as soon as people hear about this personality and this wonderful quality of Sri Ramakrishna, that they'll feel some type of attraction. But the other thing is that Sri Ramakrishna did not care about public opinion. This is something that we're told is very, very important in spiritual life. This desire for praise, this desire for appreciation, this desire for people to look up to us and admire us, all of that, just feeds the ego. And we find that we adjust our behavior, that we're no longer acting out of the principle and some higher type of standards, but we're acting so that we'll please people and they'll praise us and be happy with us. This is why for the sadhus to live alone. You live alone, then automatically that's gone, that problem. Living in the presence of other people, we always have to observe the mind. To what extent are we acting and behaving and talking so that they'll be impressed with us? This, if this is one of the aspects of this austerity of speech, that we may say things that are truthful. It may not be bragging or boasting, but is meant to leave a good impression. And every once in a while, we'll meet some of these great sadhus that is very striking that they don't have that. It's very striking. It's very obvious that they really don't care. I mean, if there are people that we respect and we love, and we find that they're not happy with us, that's a different story. It's not that we want everybody to say, "Oh, how wonderful you are," but somebody that we respect, we hope that will act in such a way that they'll be pleased with the way we act. That's fine. That's a different thing. That's a different thing. But if we're really trying to get other people to praise us and to build up our ego, then it's a great impediment, obstacle in spiritual life. It was dusk. Sri Ramakrishna began to chant the names of the Divine Mother, Krishna, Rama, and Hari. And this we know. As soon as the sun goes down, Thakur's mind goes up. Sun goes down, mind goes up. The devotee sat in silence. The master chanted the names in such sweet tones that the hearts of the devotees were deeply touched. That day, Balaram's house was like Navadvip when Chaitanya lived there. On the veranda, it was like Navadvip, and in the parlor, it was like Vrindavan. Yeah, all this connection with this chariot festival, Ratha Jatra. Even those songs to Divine Mother were also sung. But the overall thing was they pulled the chariot and did all those things. That same night, Sri Ramakrishna was to go to Dakshineswar. Balaram took him into the inner apartments and served him with refreshment. And this I've mentioned many times. This was the time, one chant. Inner apartments means that the wives of all the devotees and the others women devotees who, according to the custom of the day, would not be present when the men were there, generally, they got a chance to see Sri Ramakrishna and get his blessings and take food, to serve him food. So Balaram took him into the inner apartments and served him with refreshments. The ladies of the family saluted the master. Generally, the wives and daughters also of the devotees were tremendously devoted to Sri Ramakrishna. Balaram boasts his wife, many of them. We don't hear too much about some of the others. Ram's wife, we don't know too much, but generally, this Tarani Devi and others, we'll find that they had tremendous devotion for Sri Ramakrishna. The devotees were singing kirtan in the drawing room, awaiting the master's coming. Presently, Sri Ramakrishna came and joined the singers. The kirtan went on. Behold, my Goda is dancing. This is about Chaitanya Dev. With the devotees, he dances in Srivasa's courtyard, singing the kirtan. Goda says to all, repeat the name of Hari. He looks at Godadhar, and from his red eyes are flowing tears of love over his golden body. Godadhar is one of the devotees of Chaitanya Dev. The master improvised the lines. Goda is dancing in the kirtan. There he dances, Sachi's darling. Sachi is the mother. There he dances my Gauranga, another name of Chaitanya, name of Shiva also. This Gauranga, whose body is fair complexion, sometimes because of the ashes or anything. We have one Gaurangananda Swami. Yeah, he says it means Shiva. Yeah, he's very strong on that. But yeah, there are many songs. Gauranga, there's another about Shiva and everything with it, the same Gauranga. There he dances, my soul's beloved. Here, of course, it's Chaitanya Deva. Okay, this is the end of that chapter. Now we have chapter 26. This is Sunday, August 3rd, 1884. And if you notice, full month has gone by. July 3rd to August 3rd. Full month has gone by without any entry. Whether M was away, whether he simply couldn't find time, or whether He went and didn't record those incidents. We don't know, but this is a full month later. I've spoken about Adhar many times, but we recently read some things that I wanted to just mention. There are some of the devotees that when we read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we may not feel very impressed with them. We get a slightly negative impression. One is Ishan, and the other is Adhar, and it's a little bit unfair. It's quite unfair. So that's why I'd like to explain a little bit. This Ishan gets scolded so terribly by Sri Ramakrishna, and it seems like he's disregarding what Thakur was saying about him. But at the same time, Sri Ramakrishna didn't scold people like that unless he really loved them. And this Ishan was very, very generous and great devotee, loved Sri Ramakrishna. But there's Adhar. His case is unusual because he came to Sri Ramakrishna. Many of them came late. They were only with him for a couple of years. But somehow Sri Ramakrishna knew that he would not live long. And even to the extent that he warned him that be careful about his horseback riding, that somehow he had a premonition or vision. Somehow he seemed to know that he would have an early death, and he died when he fell off a horse, and complications from that. So a lot of what Sri Ramakrishna says to Adhar has to be seen in the context that he knows he's talking to somebody who has a short time left. He's young. Adhar is 30 or something at this time. He could say, Sri Ramakrishna could say, yes, fulfill all of your desires and get rid of these things. But there's no time for that. So one of the themes through the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is that there's Adhar. He was a deputy magistrate. He made a lot of money, 300 rupees a month. At that time was good money. But he had a chance to get a position for 1,000 rupees a month. So he would argue with Sri Ramakrishna that, well, why shouldn't I try for it? He even had Sri Ramakrishna pray to the Divine Mother so that he could get a job. Now, we think, how could he ask for that? But he had that type of faith in Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna had that love for him that he did it, that he prayed. Then afterwards he said, but Mother, how mean is he to ask for these things when he could be asking for love and devotion and everything? But he actually did it. So Sri Ramakrishna loved him very much. Very quickly, he started going to his house. His house was one of the main places, Balaram Bose, the number one. But then Ram and Adhar, they became what Thakur would say his parlor. When there's different parlors than when he went to Calcutta. So I just wanted to, just a couple of things. This is They Lived with God by Swami Chaitananda. Sri Ramakrishna knew that Adhar's life would be short. So one day he said to him, do quickly whatever you want to do. The master implied that he should associate with holy people and strive to realize God. Adhar understood what the master meant, and for 6 months he visited Sri Ramakrishna every evening after working at his office. For this, he had to spend 2.5 rupees every day. This is money in those days. 2.5 rupees every day for the carriage fare, and the trip took about an hour and a half each way. So look at the devotion Adhar had. Sometimes he was so tired that he would fall asleep on the carpet in the master's room. A few people criticized Adhar. Yeah, they would come. Everyone's listening, and he's sleeping on the floor. So they would criticize him for this, but the master said to them, what do you people know? This is the Divine Mother's place. It is the abode of peace. Instead of engaging in worldly talk, he sleeps. That is all right. A little peace still comes to such people. Before the main gate of the temple garden was closed at 10 p.m., the master would wake Adhar up and sent him home. And then just Sri Ramakrishna, his reaction at the end. So he had fallen off of a horse, he fractured his arm and everything. Later, Sri Ramakrishna told the devotees that the accident had occurred because Adhar had had a vision of his chosen deity while riding the horse. Overwhelmed with joy, Adhar had lost control of the horse. He passed away at 6 a.m. on Wednesday, 14th January, 1885. So he was with Sri Ramakrishna for just, maybe a year or something like that, not long. When news of Adhar's death reached the master, he immediately went into samadhi. Regaining normal consciousness, he wept and said to the Divine Mother, "Mother, you asked me to stay in the world with the devotees, cherishing devotion. Now, look how much pain I have. It is something to think about that an incarnation of God would cry for his devotee. It is said that out of grief, Sri Ramakrishna remained in bed for 3 days, covering himself with a cloth. He also told the devotees, one by one, my parlors are closing. I see an end coming to my gatherings." So this is Adhar Sin. This is the festival of Adhar's house, Sunday, April 3rd, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in his room in the temple garden. So this is before he goes there. At Dakshineshwar, after his midday meal, a party of Bauls from Shibpur, several devotees from Bhawanipur, Balaram and M were in the room. Rakal, Latu, and Harish were then living with the master. They too were present. The master began the conversation by addressing the Baul musicians from Shibpur. Now, we've come across these Bauls many times. They were a class of devotees who were outside of the pale of ordinary society, we can say. Very often they lived alone. They didn't observe normal types of conventions, caste. Very often even Muslims and Hindus would live together. And they practiced a very ecstatic type of devotion. Some of them came from the Chaitanya school. There were Sufis. There would be a big mixture of everything. But they did a lot of kirtan singing, and they would go from place to place. And Sri Ramakrishna used the example of when the avatar comes with his own antarangas, his inner circle, devotees and everything. He comes, and the next thing you know, they're all gone. It's all over. It happens in a flash. For you see, well, then what happened? So everything fell apart. Just like the Bauls, you'll see sometimes. I remember once seeing this in just on the street, that you don't know where they came from, but there'll be a group and they'll be singing and dancing and playing this ektara instrument, ding, 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 and next thing you know, they're gone. So this is Bauls. I know mostly about this because of this Lalon Fakir and this beautiful movie that was made. This Moner Manush. If anybody gets the chance to see this, a very beautiful movie about Lalon Fakir. He wrote something like 10,000 songs, but couldn't write or anything. He had no education or anything. But many of the actual teachings of the Bauls are mentioned by Sri Ramakrishna without referring to anything. He'll say this or the four different stages, Paravartikas and Siddha, all of that, and he'll talk about this alek, different things. They come out of this type of tradition. Even some of the songs, I think that there's some 2 or 3 songs of this Lalon Fakir that Sri Ramakrishna sings, but I don't think he knew about him. We never hear his name or anything like that. Anyhow, these are the Bauls during some of the festivals at Bellarmut. there'll also be a group of the Bauls that will come and sing. There was one very famous, what was it, Purnadas Baul, and he came to this country. He actually sang in our monastery in Trabuco one time. Yeah, with his wife and son and everything. Yeah, he was made famous by Bob Dylan, the American folk singer, pop singer. Yeah, he was so impressed with him that he tried to popularize him in this country a little bit. The master began the conversation by addressing the Baul musicians from Shibpur. Master, yoga is not possible if the mind dwells on lust and gold. The mind of a worldly man generally moves along the three lower centers, those at the navel, at the sexual organ, and at the organ of evacuation. This whole section will be about Kundalini, this whole idea of spiritual experience and raising of the mind being corresponding to the rising of a current, the spiritual current, through this spinal area, the Kundalini, with the different centers in it. After great effort and spiritual practice, the Kundalini is awakened. Because many of these Bauls, they had this Shakta side also. So there'll be Shaktas, there'll be Vaishnavas, and so many of their songs are about very highly allegorical and symbolic songs. A lot of them about this rising of the Kundalini. After great effort and spiritual practice, the Kundalini is awakened. According to the yogis, there are three nerves in the spinal column: Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna. Yes, Swamiji, he shows cross section of the spinal cord, a vertebrae or something, and there's a figure 8 that will correspond to Ida and Pingala, and then there's a little hole in the middle for the Sushumna that'll go up. Sri Ramakrishna never tries to do that. He says this all belongs to a spirit body. He says something like that. But Swamiji tries to show corresponding to that spirit body are these different plexus, nerve plexus things. Along the Sushumna are 6 lotuses or centers, the lowest being known as Muladhara. Then come successively Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, and Agnya. These are the 6 centers. The Kundalini, when awakened, passes through the lower centers and comes to the Anahata, which is at the heart. It stays there. At that time, the mind of the aspirant is withdrawn from the 3 lower centers. He feels the awakening of divine consciousness and sees light. In mute wonder, he sees that radiance and cries out, "What is this? What is this?" Now, is it necessary to bring in this idea of Kundalini and Shakti and everything? I don't think so, because the important part of it is the way the mind rises to different levels through our spiritual practice and through different types of realizations, that to at least recognize this phenomenon that spiritual experience requires the mind to go to a different level. And when the mind rises to a different level, we can explain it in terms of Kundalini also rising. But the important thing is that the mind, it's an experiential thing. It's not just a physiological thing, that the mind is undergoing a change where we don't see things the way we normally do, or the way other people see them. Everything will appear as light or even as ideas, and everything can even fade away and disappear, and the mind goes higher and higher. So another way of understanding it is just mind going higher and higher till it reaches the highest state, samadhi. So all of the stages that we read about in some of the other types of traditions will be explained in terms of this rising. Now, which is the cause? What causes what? Is it the rising Kundalini that causes these different experiences? Or is it this devotion and power of the mind and longing of the mind and all of that, and meditation and concentration that will force the Kundalini to go up? half and half. Kundalini can be artificially raised a little bit, but generally I would say the other way around. So I look at the Kundalini a little bit like the mercury in the thermometer, that it's the heat of the room that'll make it go up. It's not the rising of the mercury that makes the room get hot. But you can artificially make the mercury go up also. So sometimes Thakur talks about through this kirtan and everything, and Swamiji also, that somehow Kundalini will go up. Well, that means the mind will go to a higher level, but without proper preparation and everything, it can come back down. And there can be some negative reactions, I think. Extreme pranayama also can have an effect on the mind and give the appearance of drugs, can also give the appearance of raising the mind to a higher level, but it has to be done properly. Otherwise, it'll come back down. There'll be negative reactions. According to the Vedas, these centers are called bhumi, plains. There are 7 such plains. The center at the heart, yeah, there were 6 centers in Kundalini, but 7th is Sahasrara, 1,000-petaled lotus at the top. So this corresponds to that. According to the Vedas, these centers are called bhumi, plains. There are 7 such plains. The center at the heart corresponds to the 4th plane of the Vedas. According to the Tantra, there is in this center a lotus called Anahata with 12 petals. Now, all of these centers are seen as lotuses. They all have a certain number of petals and they all have a certain color. Now, was this one person's experience, one person's vision? Sri Ramakrishna, he had different types of experiences where he saw these lotuses. And one where he sees some kind of drooping, and then the touch, divine touch, they stand open and fully blossomed and everything. How much of this is symbolic? How much of this is based on our understanding? How much of this is that there's something fundamentally true about the number of petals and the number of and the different colors? Everybody has their own opinion of how literally to take these things. The center known as Vishuddha is the 5th plane. This center is at the throat and has a lotus with 16 petals. When the Kundalini reaches this plane, the devotee longs to talk and hear only about God. To me, this is the important part, that we reach a certain stage in spiritual life, however we explain it, where the mind only cares about certain things. Conversation on worldly subjects, on lust and gold, causes him great pain. He leaves a place where people talk of these matters. Then comes the 6th plane, corresponding to the center known as Ajna. The center is located between the eyebrows, and it has a lotus with 2 petals. Why the different number of petals? Don't know. When the Kundalini reaches it, the aspirant sees the form of God. So this will correspond to some type of sabikalpa samadhi or bhava samadhi. But still, there remains a slight barrier between the devotee and God. It is like a light inside a lantern. You may think you have touched the light, but in reality, you cannot because of the barrier of glass. And last of all is the 7th plane, which according to Tantra is the center of the 1,000-petaled lotus. When the Kundalini arrives there, the aspirant goes into samadhi. In that lotus dwells Satchidananda Shiva, the Absolute. There, Kundalini, the awakened power. Kundalini here is thought of as the Divine Mother also. She's manifested Kundalini. So Kundalini, the awakened power, unites with Shiva. This is known as the union of Shiva and Shakti. So this is how spiritual experience is explained according to some different tantric texts, and especially with this idea of the union of Shiva and Shakti. Okay, so we'll stop here. This is Festival at Adhar's House, page 500. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukam Bhatudha Vikraham Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who was stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto